Hi, and welcome to this one, the first episode of the new GRcade Podcast. It's back after, I think a few years since we last had one. I'm Qikz and Venom, I'll be your host. And joining me today, I've got three veterans of our E3 post-mortems. I've got Captain Kinopio. Say hello.
Hello.
I have Stay Dead, aka Qikz.
Yo-ho.
And returning as well, we have Venom. Say hello, Venom.
Hi, how you doing, everyone?
So yeah,
Wait, is it Qikz?
Yep.
Oh my god. The last 4 years I've been saying Qikz in my head.
To be fair, it's the same with you. I don't know whether to call you Kinopio, Herbie, or what, man.
The new name's the best.
The new name's the best one.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's Captain then, is it?
Captain Kinopio.
Yeah, you can shorten it to Captain. Let's keep it formal.
Okay.
Cap.
All right.
Cap. Okay. So yeah. Well, it's been like I said, I think about 4 or 5 years since the last podcast. Now, I never took part in it, and I don't think I ever actually listened to the previous ones. Were any of you guys involved in that? So
I wasn't cool enough to be involved.
you're barely cool enough to be involved in this one, but here you are.
Yeah, I did listen to a couple of them, and it was quite good. It was good, but it was only around for a short while.
How many different iterations have there been?
This will
Just
be there's been a couple. There was the GRcade Podcast. You had GRcade.fm. You had RetroCade Podcast. And now you've got us. So I think we are now the fourth podcast to come out of GRcade.
Because I always listen to the one that Aaron and Schminky and those guys did. I think I listened to every episode of that. I really enjoyed that. So, I don't know. Can we reach that level of discourse? Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, if we can live up to the high standards that have been set previously, I think we'll be quite happy. So let's kind of get underway. I think what we're going to be doing is each episode is going to be split into two parts. We're going to be talking about games, and we're going to be talking about stuff. Games is obviously self-explanatory. We're going to talk about what we've been playing, what's been going on, and anything else we can think of regarding games. And stuff is anything and everything else. So anything happening in the news, anything that's been happening, TV, movies, stuff like that. And then maybe some other stuff. I don't know. We'll see how we go. So yeah, we'll just kick straight into it with games. And what's everybody been playing? Stay Dead. We'll start with you, Qikz. Basically, because I know you've been playing something that I've been playing. You've been playing Overwatch, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, considering I nearly missed the podcast because I'm playing Overwatch.
Well, you are actually playing Overwatch as you speak.
Yes, I am. No regrets. Probably one of my favourite games.
Is the game as good as everyone is saying? Because everybody seems to be talking about it, that it's really something special.
I'm too biased to really give you an opinion because it's just, I really enjoy it. But the way I view it is it's kind of like TF2 was before they added all the silly weapons.
Yeah.
It's very pure.
Yeah. I think a lot of people kind of say that about it, and I totally agree with it. It is, a lot of the gameplay is very similar to TF2, but it's TF2 without the bullshit that they added to it. Okay. So, I mean, I really like it. I like the heroes, and the different ways of, everybody's different, you've got different ways of playing it. I think it's really, really cool. And obviously, obviously they've just added the competitive mode, which I think we're all kind of hammering at the moment. What rank have you been doing well today?
I'm only rank like 43 because I've not been doing too well in competitive. I did better last night when I got in a group of 6 though. It's so much better in a group of 6 as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works better as a bigger group. I think I'm still doing my placement match. I think I've got another 2 or 3, and then I'll get, my kind of ranking out of that to see where I stand. And at that point, I'll no doubt kind of humph and go back to quick play. I don't do well in competitive games, but yeah, I'm really enjoying Overwatch. It's generated some really cool moments. It's got some really good stuff about it. I love the play of the game. I love, the fact that it's not focused on what your kill death ratio is. It's more about playing the objectives, which is fantastic. Kinopio, I mean, have you played Overwatch? What do you think about it?
I've not played it. I don't think I will. I'm not. I don't know. 2016 is my year of games. I've got a bit of extra cash this year, so I just I do feel like I kind of want to play everything, but Overwatch is it's just multiplayer. And I don't want to be somebody who just sits there and goes, I've got no single player. But that is how I kind of feel about it a little bit. Yeah.
Thing is, I'd rather it have no multiplayer or no single player than be a multiplayer design game with a tacked on single player that's just bad. Because it's just a waste of development time.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I can't remember. Was it Battlefield 3 or something like that?
Yeah.
Battleborn?
No. There was a Battlefield. I think it was 3 that. It's effectively just multiplayer, but it had like a pathetic 4-hour story on it. And I get Qikz's point about that is pointless. Oh my god, Wales just scored. Sorry. So I'm just slightly reluctant to go full price with those kind of games. Even though, when you read impressions from it all over the place, it's ridiculously universally positive. But to me, it doesn't look like my kind of multiplayer, I guess. I think if Rainbow Six Siege, which I still kind of play, and again it is a multiplayer only. I kind of suck at FPSs now. I don't know when it happened. Sometime in the last 5 years, I think. I'm kind of more into my slower tactical paced ones. So, I mean, I'd give it a shot if it was like 20 quid or something, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those games. I mean, if you get a chance to play it, I definitely would say give it a shot because it is really, really good. I mean, I'm a big fan of single player games as well. I mean, I love a game that's got a single player mode, and for me, multiplayer is usually kind of a secondary concern. But there are certain games, where the multiplayer is just good enough that for me it doesn't need a single player. Overwatch is one of those games. I think Battlefield is the same. It doesn't need the single player. Although I did enjoy both Bad Company's campaigns, it doesn't need the single player. It is good enough to stand on its own. But certainly, I mean, it's up to yourself. But if the value proposition for you is correct. But I would certainly say if you get a chance to play it, you should, man. It's really, really good. So yeah, I mean, anybody else got anything else to add on Overwatch?
I haven't played it yet, but it is a funny time that we've got these multiplayer battle arena style games. We've got Overwatch, we've got Battleborn, and we spoke briefly before the show. Paragon is coming.
Yeah.
So this, I guess, is a new genre really for home consoles is coming out, and they're all hitting at the time. And I guess it's a case of just the very best one is going to stand out, and it means that's Overwatch. But I will be getting my hands onto Paragon next week to give that a little go and see how that is.
I've got a code. Well, I've got it on the PC. I managed to get one of the codes for it a week or two ago, but I haven't played it yet. But certainly with it coming to PS4, PS Plus next week, I'll be looking to give that a shot as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, because I know that's more like Battleborn. It's a MOBA in first person form, so it'll be interesting to see how that works. Especially because I haven't played Battleborn. And from what I've heard, I mean, while I think it suffered from coming out at the same time as Overwatch, from what I've heard, Battleborn's actually not bad. It's maybe just kind of got overshadowed a bit.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly Battleborn seems to have just fallen off a cliff once Overwatch came out. Like, the player base just dropped like a dead weight.
I mean, it's that thing. Like, if you're going to bring out two identical games at exactly the same time, you've got to be the best one. Otherwise, why would anyone play you?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like...
The thing is, I've not played Battleborn, but it doesn't even... The premise, I guess, is similar, but Battleborn is more like an FPS MOBA game, like Smite is.
Yeah, that's
Smite's
exactly
third
it.
person,
Yeah. Paragon, Battleborn, Smite, they're all basically first-person MOBAs. I think the reason Overwatch gets pulled into it is because it does have that. It's got the kind of not cartoony, but it's got that aesthetic to it. But it's also hero-based. So if you look at it and you go, oh, it's heroes, so it's a MOBA. It's like they've taken the hero part of a MOBA and just put it in a first-person arena shooter, but they haven't brought any of the other kind of MOBA tropes with it. You don't have lanes, you don't have creeps, and all that stuff kind of getting the way, and I think that's maybe kind of put people off Battleborn as well.
The interesting thing for me is the way I understand the whole premise of like the characters in Overwatch is they're basically superheroes. But if you're classing them as heroes, then I view people like Soldier and Pyro and stuff in TF2 as heroes if you're going to do that. So although they're not, like, they've all got their own character, they're not fully fleshed out in the actual game, it's more fan stuff and stuff in the background like comics like Valve did with TF2 as well. And I mean, the only reason why I think people are calling them heroes is because they have their little skills and they're like MOBA characters in a way. But I don't even like to agree that that's fully the case.
Well, certainly it's certainly a way to look at them, but you know they're certainly spec'd like MOBA heroes. You know, it's like each character, you know, has their different abilities and so on. So I mean, they're certainly spec'd that way. I mean, TF2 it seems more like a class than a separate kind of hero. Now, I will freely admit I haven't played tons of TF2. I know you played quite a bit, Stayden, but
Yeah.
I never really, it never clicked with me. I think I came into it literally just before it went free to play. I bought it, and then about a month later it went free to play, and I think that was when it changed. So most of my time playing it has been after that point, and I don't like what it became. So I never played much of it, but in comparison, so yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, they're both very different games, but I think I definitely prefer the way Overwatch does it than TF2. I mean, Overwatch, you know for a fact that every Torbjorn's going to be as powerful as every other Torbjorn. You know that your soldier's going to be the same power as the other player's soldier. It's not, you know, a case of, alright, well, this demo man's got a plus 15 grenade launcher and a funny hat that makes him run faster. You know, where you're going up against people who've been playing for so long that you're totally outclassed because they've got better gear. You know, and that's one of the things I really didn't like about what happened with TF2.
Yeah, I think it's very much the problem TF2 ended up with, and the thing that Overwatch has got is it's got very good class definition. So you see a character and you immediately know exactly what they can do and what weapons they have and things like that. But with TF2, they basically did the whole thing of I just kicked from Overwatch game. Damn. Yeah, they did the thing where they sort of added melee weapons and things like that to Demo Man, and then when you saw a Demo Man, it was no longer, I know what he can do to me. It's a case of, what crazy, ridiculous weapons does he have?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it took away the thing where, and I'm not sure if it was TF2 they were talking about this, or if it was another game by another developer, but it was saying they designed each of the characters so that you could identify them just by their shape, you know, by their silhouette. So from a distance you get a glance, you can say, oh, that's a Demo Man, or that's whatever. You know, whereas when they then add this stuff in, it's like, well, it's a Demo Man, but he could have this, he could have this, he could have this, and you don't know what it's going to be until you basically run into him and get killed because he's the opposite of what you thought. But whereas Overwatch, like I said, obviously you know exactly what you're getting with each character that you go up against.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Overwatch, a very, very good game, and well worth playing, or at least trying out if you haven't already. You absolutely should, Venom. What have you been playing, Venom? Obviously you said you were looking at Paragon for next week, but what have you been playing recently?
Yeah, well, I've been playing a graphic adventure that's called Oxenfree, and it is a sort of spooky murder mystery adventure. Well, I say murder mystery, that's sort of genre, and it's a group of
I know the game
teenagers.
you're talking about.
Yeah,
is it the one with the kind of cardboardy cut out aesthetic? You control like radio signals and stuff.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah,
I mean the art
interested in
style.
this.
Yeah, no, it's good. It was originally out on PC and Xbox, and it just recently, at the end of May, came out on PS4. And yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of graphic adventures from the old LucasArts games, so this appealed to me. And it's a group of these teenagers, and they train in the USA, and they get on a ferry, and they travel into this island to have a beach party.
Oh dear.
And
That doesn't sound good.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is how all the happiest films begin.
Exactly. And so you've already got a vibe that something's going to be happening. Anyway, so you play the role of a girl called Alex, and her new stepbrother is with her, and her friend, I would say gay best friend, but I think he's straight.
Okay.
And they go to the island and they meet up with a couple of other school friends, and some very strange things start happening.
Cool. So, I mean, is this like a point and click, or is it, what's the kind of interface for it?
It is very much point and click. I mean, it is at its most basic level. It is you click to walk around, and you do have a dialogue wheel. So I say wheel, you have the option to select a dialogue choice in conversation. But the difference is with this is if you don't select quickly enough, the dialogue options disappear. So that was something I'm not too keen on. But no, it's getting quite interesting because I haven't finished it yet, but there's some radio signals on the island, and the girl Alex is tuning into them, and some strange things happen. I won't go into it any further because I don't want to spoil anything. The only thing I am not liking so far is that it, as I said before, I'm into LucasArts games, and you've always got some degree of puzzles. With this, I haven't really come across any puzzles. It seems to be very much an interactive walking simulator in a good way. And so I'm wondering if it's actually going to get challenging. And I don't know if it's that I've got these expectations of a older style genre or whatever, or maybe it's just a new genre that people are happy to play, but it just seems a little bit uninteractive in that.
So with the dialogue options, do they make too much of a difference?
They can do, because you can, for example, you can take a very positive outlook to a character or a negative outlook. There is a school bully, college bully, a girl called Clarissa, and you can either try and placate her or aggravate the situation. So, yes, it should make a difference, and it does make a difference. But how far you can take it, I don't know yet.
Yeah. So it's like we don't know if it's maybe like heavy rain styles, where your choices can massively affect the story, or if it's just she's not going to like you for a while.
No, I don't think it is going to be like Heavy Rain at all. It's more a case of it just changes the tone of the conversation.
Right.
So is it still point and click on PS4?
Yes, yeah. Well, I say point and click. What I mean by that is you're actually using the left stick to move the character, and you're using the face buttons to select a dialogue option. And you also use the right one or right two button to tune in with the radio. So you can tune into various radio signals, perhaps to pick up the local radio station or whatever. So it's a small indie game. And so it might not be for everybody, but if you're looking for a small sort of indie game, it might be worth exploring. I just have to finish it to find out if it's ultimately rewarding or if it ends up not being, too good in the end.
Ends up disappointing.
It's not like Broken Age, is it?
I haven't played Broken Age, to be honest, but I believe some of the staff from Telltale have formed this indie company. So I haven't played Broken Age yet, but I do intend.
The interesting question for me, and I don't know if you can go into this without spoiling it, is does it look like there's multiple routes through the game, or is it just a case of your ending will somewhat change if you aggravate a character or something?
I do know that there are multiple endings. Originally,
okay. That's good.
Originally I think there might have been just one or a couple, and these new endings which have appeared in the PS4 version have now been added as a patch to the Steam, PC, and Xbox version. So what I've read from some people online is that they're going back and they'd like to explore the other ending. So that's good, because it means obviously there can be a different outcome.
Mm-hmm.
There was the developers were on an old episode of GT Live, and they were talking about it was Probably about this time last year, actually. Yeah, they were talking about like where the inspiration came from and things like that. And I think they mentioned about the branching paths. So that might be worth looking up if anyone's interested in it.
I will try and track that down. Thank you.
Yeah, no, excellent. That sounds really good. Actually, I'm quite interested in that because I'm like you, a massive fan of the old LucasArts adventures. So I mean, I'm especially outside of Oxenfree. I'm really looking forward to Ron Gilbert's new game. I can't remember the name of it, but I think it's very Twin Peaks, Twin Peaksy from what I've seen. So I can't remember the name of that. That's going to annoy me. But yeah, so I'm kind of looking forward to that.
I'm not really a massive fan. I think those games had a time and a place. That time and a place was about 20 years ago. Like,
yeah, to an extent, yeah. I think that their best times are past them. They'll never again, be the kind of peak that they had with the Monkey Island games and the Indiana Jones, Fate of Atlantis, and Sam and Max, and Full Throttle and so on. But they'll never get there again. But I'm glad that they're back and that they're, it's something they're viable again. I mean, for years there was nothing.
Yeah, there's a market for them now. There's definitely people who are looking for them. I mean, it's not going to be, like you said, back in the early 90s, they were mainstream and a graphic adventure. It was cutting edge in terms of technical performance. Now, like Kinopio said, it is a very dated game in many senses, but there is a market. And the game you were talking about is Pinball. yeah.
I mean, but how big is that mark? Broken Age isn't that like a bit of a failure? I mean, I know it was obviously very successful on Kickstarter, but
I was going to say the thing to remember is Telltale have made some bad games recently. Like they've gone into their cash cow of all the different like TV series and films and whatnot.
Yeah.
But Tales of Monkey Island was really good. I mean, Sam and Max season 1, 2, and 3 were really good as well. And now you've got more of the old ones being brought back to a modern audience, like Day of the Tentacle, which is really good as well. And they're all sort of opening up.
How did I forget Day of the Tentacle? Jesus Christ, that's like possibly the best point-and-click game ever made.
The funny thing is with the point-and-click genre, because there are multiple forms of it now. It used to be just you had the puzzle-orientated, but now even things like visual novels and other similar things, like they all have their place in the market, especially in the West now. Visual novels are doing a lot better on Steam than they ever were before because they were never getting released. So,
what's a virtual novel?
Visual novel, it's like it's basically a text adventure in a way. The way you select different options depending on how good the game is, and then there's multiple story routes and.
Turn to page 64 if you want to talk to the wizard, kind of.
Yeah, that's
kind of like that, except instead of wizards, it's usually Japanese schoolgirls.
Cute girl.
It's impress me, senpai-kun, or whatever.
Or you have some of the like more classic ones, which I think it was Kojima that was working on one. I know it's one that never got released over here. It was for the SNES.
Can you imagine a Kojima visual novel like that?
I'm trying to think of what it was. It's a really famous game. It's Detective something.
I'm not sure. I really can't remember.
What was Hotel Dusk?
That's kind of like a visual novel.
Yeah, that was kind of like a visual novel stroke point and click adventure. Yeah, because obviously you had a location you could move about, you had puzzles to solve. Hotel Dusk was really good actually. I need to play that again. It was
pretty decent, wasn't it?
Yeah, really liked
Hotel Dusk. I wouldn't go crazy about it. I never played the sequel.
I never played the sequel either, but no, I really liked Hotel Dusk. I wouldn't go out of my mind about it, but yeah, it was solid. I enjoyed it. Anyway, moving on. Right, Kinopio, what have you been playing? Anything ringing your bell?
Fucking nothing. It's a bloody summer drought, isn't it? It's bullshit.
It is a little bit, yeah, a little bit. I mean,
it's now's the time not to be playing games, I guess. But nothing really.
Okay.
I'd say the Euros are on, so I've been dipping into FIFA every now and then. But
well, that's it. At the moment, you're live correspondent from the Wales game. So how are they doing?
They're winning with
Excellent.
15 minutes to go. Be amazing.
Excellent. No, Wales have been doing really well. I mean, I've not been following it too closely, but fucking yes, go on Wales.
But I bloody suck at FIFA. I thought I was alright. I got up to... Because I don't... They seem to have taken out the game modes that I like.
Like football.
Don't worry, they're replacing it with a story mode.
It seems very difficult to just do a league these days without any kind of management nonsense. Like, if you just want to play Premier League, like, you don't want to faff around with buying and selling players. I don't know, they seem to hide it between umpteen different menus, so all I really do is the online seasons thing. You kind of, you just like pitch yourself against
other players, and
you have like 10 game seasons, and you're only really playing yourself.
Yeah.
But as you progress through the league, so you start off in like in Division 10 or something, and you need to get 8 points to go up to 9, and then in Division 9 you need to get so many points to go up into. So I like doing that, but I got up to Division 5, I think, but I don't know what's happened. I've crumbled under the pressure because I think I lost about 15 games on the trot, and now I'm in the doldrums.
Oh man, I'm shit at football games. That's why I don't play them generally. I don't even know much about them. I mean, if you watched the E3 post-mortem that we did, it was myself, Peds, and Dragon, and it got to the FIFA section, and you couldn't have found 3 people who knew less about football to talk about that section. It was ridiculous.
It kind of annoys me because I think I've been waiting for years to buy a FIFA game again, and I'm never sure like when to jump in, like whether this. Because it's all it's like whether it's a good year for FIFA or a good year for PES, or whether they're both shit this year, you should just wait. And I kind of got FIFA this year, and I think this was a shit year for FIFA, so I kind of fucked up. But
you could always get the new kickoff game, which admittedly I've heard shit, but you could get that. That's a bit different.
It looks fucking dump.
It does look crazy.
I just really miss arcade football games.
Yeah.
I like arcade football games, but I don't really like super realistic FIFA.
Well, I think that's kind of what PES is. PES is just arcade football, from what I hear from fucking Steve Burns.
I don't know, but even looking at it, like when when I used to play the ISS on the SNES, ISS Superstar or International Superstar Soccer Deluxe or whatever it is, like that's genuinely fun. But even PES seems to be trying to be too serious for what it is. And I understand that's what probably football fans want, but I guess since I'm not a football fan.
For me, the best football game I've played in years was Rocket League, and that's not even proper football.
Got boring quickly, Rocket League.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's about as much jumping around and diving for the ball in Rocket League as there is in real football. So.
No, come on, there's not that much in Rocket League.
Topical. Yeah.
But yeah, so FIFA. Okay, cool. I've not really been playing too much either. Like you said, summer drought. I kind of started the other day, I started playing through Adventure of Link, so Zelda 2 on the NES. I've been started that, because it's one of those games I've started loads and loads of times, but I've never actually, played for any real length of time or completed, so
Why did you start it?
I think Hyperion had played through it recently, and he'd posted about it in the thread, and then the watching artist, Matt, he'd been playing it up until about 3 or 4 days ago. And I was kind of like, he's playing it. I was like, and he was getting really angry with it and kind of pissed off. And I was like, in a show of solidarity, I'll dig out my NES, I'll dig out my copy of this, and I'll set it up and I'll play it. So as soon as I started, I looked in the forum and he'd finished it, and I was like, oh well, fuck it, I'll play it anyway.
Yeah,
so,
now you've got to finish it to prove your superiority over him.
Yeah.
Instead
of these save state people.
Stuff, like, going through all those old Nintendo games, I'll learn all the lore and stuff, and I'll be able to say that I've beaten every Zelda, and apart from the CDI ones, obviously. But I think Metroid 2 broke my back.
Really?
They're just shit and unplayable. Like,
well, it's funny you should mention Metroid 2. I think myself and Hyperion played through that a couple of months ago, actually.
Oh my god, it was absolutely
I loved
abysmal.
it. I really enjoyed it. It's a game I've had for years, I think, actually. I won a copy of it from, I don't know if you remember Total, the Nintendo magazine from the 90s. I won their Weird Places You Play Your Game Boy competition. I got a copy of Metroid 2. So I've had it for years, and so I finally I was like, yeah.
6-hour exercise in determining different shades of grey from one another.
Yeah, it's big. It's very linear as well, actually, because it's like you go into areas and each area has a set number of Metroids that you need to clear to open up the next area. So it's and they are very, very obviously to do with the resolution of the screen, so it can only show you a small area on the screen at a time, and these areas are huge and they do look very similar. So it's very, very easy to get lost. I think I did end up using a map to kind of help me get through it.
Yeah.
But I've really enjoyed it. It's it's the most I've enjoyed that game in a long, long time. So for me, the only Metroid game I've not finished now is the original and Metroid Prime 2. They're the only ones I haven't done. I've done Zero Mission, which is essentially Metroid 1, but not actually. So I'm still going to have to do that one. But yeah, so yeah, really good game.
The thing with Metroid 1 and 2 is it really, really forces you to either look at a map or draw a map yourself.
Really fucking graph paper.
Yeah.
I get to a certain point in Metroid 1 and then I just can't work out where I'm going. It's the same in Zelda 1. I've never managed to finish it because I could never find the dungeons and I refuse to look at a map.
Mm.
You can't play those games these days without getting FAQs.
You're playing on original NES hardware then?
I am, yes. No save states.
Alright, that's pretty good that you still got your hardware out and about.
Yeah, it was like I said, I've had my NES for probably about 10 or 12 years at this point. And I've had quite a few games for it, and I've never really sat down and spent any time with them. It was more kind of, I've got my NES, and I've got, all the Mario games, and, I've got Zelda 2 with the gold cartridge and stuff, but I'd never actually sat down and really played any of the games on them. It was more just to kind of have it as a curiosity, so it's always fun when I set it up for the first time again, because you get the red flashing light issue that you get with it, so it's always a bit hit and miss getting the cartridges to work the first time, but once it's working it tends to stay that way, so yeah, but kicking it old school, man.
Well, that's pretty good, because I've always tended to get rid of my old consoles after a generation or two, and when I think about all the hardware that has been through my hands and I no longer have, it'd be great to just have it, in the loft to dig out and still use.
I could not throw away games consoles. I traded in one game when I was younger, which was GTA 3, and then I regretted it a month after when I wanted to play it again. Yeah,
no, I completely understand.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like trading in stuff. I have traded stuff in, and I still do when the need arises. But for the most part, I do try and keep a hold of my stuff, especially my older machines, like my SNES and that, which I've still got. So yeah, I don't particularly like trading stuff in. But yeah, so kind of back on it. Yeah, so I'm playing Adventure of Link at the moment, and it's very Dark Souls in a lot of ways, or rather, Dark Souls is very Adventure of Link, which I suppose was more kind of its time. It's.
I mean, Breath of the Wild is going back to its roots.
It kind of looks like it, yeah. I mean, a lot of people are kind of saying, it's much more, it's like the first Zelda game, but the more I play Adventure of Link, I'm like, well, the stuff they're bringing in here looks more like stuff from Adventure of Link, because you've got, you've got a leveling up system, your magic increases, you get XP, it's really strange, and kind of taking it back to what I was saying about Dark Souls, you've got lives, so it's like when you die in an area, it'll put you back to the start of that kind of the room that you're in, but none of the monsters will respawn, so you just get to carry on from where you were. When you lose all your lives, it puts you right back to the very starting area of the game. You've still got all your kind of progress, but you have to work your way back to where you were, and all the enemies have respawned. So it's that you can find you get to a bit that's really difficult, and you have to keep doing it over and over again until you've either kind of leveled up enough that you can deal with it, or you figure out the best way to do it, which, again, it's a very Dark Souls kind of mechanic. Although it does take fucking liberties at points. There's the first boss in the first palace is like almost like a knight with a big mace, but he's got like a horse's head, and he only takes damage if you hit the very, very tips of his head, like his ears. And it's such a tiny, tiny target, and you have to do this jump attack to do it, and it's so easy to miss. So, I died to him about 7 or 8 times just because I'm hitting him in the face with my sword, and it's not doing any damage because I'm not hitting this one specific point. It's
he's the guy
crazy.
you have to jump attack for, isn't he?
Yeah. Plus, you've got like the iron knuckles as well. You need to jump attack then too. And these are just the low level. This is like the first dungeon. So it's only going to get tougher. So yeah, I think I'm going to be tearing my hair out by the end of this. But we'll see. So yeah, with some kind of good games we're all playing there. I'm definitely interested in seeing more of Oxenfree, so I'll be looking into that when we finish up here. But kind of outside what we've been playing, obviously there has been stuff going on. Obviously we had E3 a couple of weeks ago. Now I don't really want to rehash E3 because we've got the postmortems on the YouTube channel. Go and watch them; they're brilliant. And I'm not just saying that because I did them all. But there is still obviously stuff kind of happening. Now there's been a few things kind of going on this week. Nothing major. There's not been any major news, but certainly there's been some Nintendo kind of rumours going about, stuff specifically about NX. I think Miyamoto came out and said that one of the reasons why they didn't show NX at E3 was because they've got this big innovative idea that they didn't want anybody to kind of get a look at this point. And I'm going to pass over to Kinopio there because he seems to have something to say about this.
Nintendo have just gone 3-1 up against Belgium. I mean Wales.
Nintendo. They're in the Euros now.
Wales are bloody in the semi-finals of the Euros. Fancy that.
Well, there we go.
Well,
Excellent.
yeah, that Nintendo thing, like that. I think that set off alarm bells in a few places because people were worried that, from what Miyamoto said, that something about like they're afraid other people were going to steal it or something. I think that made a lot of people think, "Oh God, what's the gimmick? Here we go again." I think I did initially, but the more I've kind of thought about it, I mean, there are a couple of things it could be that we kind of already know about the NX, about them, I don't know, potentially unifying the handheld and console systems, going back to cartridges maybe. I don't know.
I was going to say that about the cartridges. There was a story I seen on IGN. We're talking about it. They were saying that the company that manufactures the ROM chips for the DS, the 3DS games, has received a much bigger order from Nintendo than they normally would, more than you would expect just to be in new hardware. So yeah, that kind of, they're saying that might be an indication that they are going for cartridges.
I don't know what I said it on, whether it was one of the E3 things or the Drive Club thing, but I'm totally down for going back to cartridges. Loading times now are bloody ridiculous.
I don't see the drawbacks of cartridges, considering space-wise, cartridges are one of the highest capacity memory options.
I think it's most, the downside to cartridges has always been the cost of the cartridge itself. That was obviously one of the big downfalls they had with the N64, was that they had all these great games coming out for it. Yeah, there was no loading times, fantastic, but you were paying £50 to £60 for these games when, obviously PS1 games were, half that price, £30 to £40. So I think that's always been one of the kind of arguments against cartridges these days. And that kind of worries me as well, whether we're going to see a return to those kind of high prices for the cartridges if they are going back to it, especially because and even when you look at the storage capacities now, I mean, you're talking Blu-ray discs, you're talking about 50 gig, 52 gig at the moment running on them. How much are you going to pay for a 52 gig ROM chip? I don't know, what that worries me. I'm not against it. I think if they can get them at a reasonable price, yes, but I'm not sure about it.
I mean, with Nintendo, I'm mentioning about the cartridges. If they do introduce a machine that's using cartridges, they're still going to have the download option. Mm-hmm. So, I believe you've got it for the Wii U. You've got it with some 3DS games. So, of course, there's going to be a download option. So, I wouldn't worry too much in that sense. I mean, because hopefully the cost of these cartridges has dropped significantly if you think it's more likely to be the size of a memory card. And in the old days of the N64, the cost which you mentioned, that was a big cost for the publishers because they had to pay the cost of a cartridge and they had to book, they had to order the cartridges in advance from Nintendo. So it was not very cost effective to them. So the issue is, if they are bringing cartridges, is it going to be a problem for third parties? So that's something to worry about.
Yeah.
But what I'm quite interested about is, you know, what is this idea that Nintendo have that they felt they wanted to keep secret?
Yeah.
Now, I think it was Kinopio who mentioned about it. You know, he's worried if it's going to be a gimmick or something interesting. And, you know, I've got the same feeling. It could be something wonderful. I'm definitely intrigued, and I'm just hoping it's going to be something special.
Mm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's something that's until we know more about what NX is, it's really difficult to make any judgment calls on it. I really hope it's
calling it now console with a mouse and keyboard, the perfect console.
A Nintendo PC.
Yeah, well, they started off as the family computer, games hardware-wise, so...
True. I don't know, I think, like I said, we need to see more about it. Whatever it is, it can't be anything amazingly drastically different. It can't be, simply because it has to be able to run the new Zelda game. And that, you know, it's... So whatever it is, it can't be too far removed from Wii U. You know, it just can't be, not if they're able to say this is coming out on this system as well.
I mean, they could just, like, not make full use of I don't think that's necessarily an indication that... I mean, I don't think it'll be a powerhouse. Like, as far as I'm concerned, if it's as powerful as the PS4, I'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
But on the Zelda thing, the other thing they said was that they need to sell 2 million to break even.
Yeah.
On Zelda, which
they'll do that, no problem.
It might take them a while.
I don't think so. I mean, Wii U alone will sell more than 2 million.
Worldwide, if you think about it.
It's not that many worldwide, but Zelda, like...
They've sold something like 8 million... They've sold like 8 million copies of Mario Kart.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's Mario Kart. Zelda...
It's Zelda.
I think you'd be surprised what the actual sales... I can't think of any Zeldas that have hit 8. I mean, I'm sure Ocarina of Time must have hit well over 8 million, but from memory, most Zeldas hover around, or get to around 5 to 8 or something in lifetime sales. So it's not like... And those are on consoles that are at least moderately successful. Given the state of the Wii U and kind of where Nintendo perceived to be at the moment. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure they'll sell 2 million copies of Zelda, but like...
Yeah, I don't see them. It depends on a couple of things in terms of NX. It depends on how many people buy an NX and buy Zelda on that. I don't think they're going to have any problem selling the 2 million at all. Whether they sell 2 million on the Wii U, again, that depends on what the NX is, how much it is, you know, whether people want it. But if they don't buy it on NX, they'll buy it on Wii U. Certainly is the way I'm looking at it, because if I will be buying it on one or the other. It will almost certainly be the NX, unless the NX turns out to be something really fucking weird. But yeah, I don't see it being an issue for them at all. So yeah, 2 million should be easy for them, I think.
I'm sure it will be launch title as well for the NX.
Yeah.
And if it is, and it's a new Nintendo console, then yeah, it will do, as the Americans say, gangbuster.
Do Americans say that?
Some people say that.
It's going console because if it is portable consoles, I mean, I was looking at the Japanese sales charts for the last month, and the Vita, which is pretty much a dead console over in West, it's still like the number 2 or number 3 best-selling console at the moment over there.
It's because there's actually software being released.
Yes, it's true. But
Venom, you keep cutting out on my side.
It shows that...
Yeah, I thought that was just me.
It's down to my mouse.
You may want to switch your button to your keyboard. Just
Yep. No problem. I'll use a different...
Yeah, cheers, man. First I was like, is that me, or is it what? I don't know what was going on there.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Alright, no problem. Anyway, just basically saying that I'm looking forward to a hybrid console.
I don't think there'll be a hybrid. I'm not sure they'd do that.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sold on that yet. We'll have to wait and see what they show. I know obviously that's what a lot of the rumours are. Personally,
I think they have to do it.
Really?
Why?
Because they can't fucking support 2 consoles.
Yeah.
The trouble they had with the 3DS and the Wii U is they both started in exactly the same way. There wasn't enough software initially, and then they put a lot of effort into getting a lot of software in one go. Or not fully in one go in the Wii U's case, but by that point the 3DS had built up steam and they couldn't really afford to stop it. So they still had to develop for both.
Throughout the entire Wii U's life, and going back into the Wii's life, and like the DS's life, or the DS. Like, you either have a console year or a handheld year where one gets some support. It just seems to me that like, I don't know how many developers, or how big their teams are, or how willing they are to share out workloads, but
it's a valid point, I think. I mean, I can see where you come from, and I do agree with you on that regard. That there was kind of, lean years for one machine while the other had a fuller year. Whether or not Nintendo can do that anymore, I don't know. I think that is a fair point. I don't see why they don't scale up a bit. I don't see why they aren't out there getting more developers, getting more second-party developers under their belt, so that they do have enough to do it. I mean, if there's one thing that keeps coming about Nintendo, it's that they've got this massive cash reserve. Now, obviously, you don't want to spend the rainy day fund, but you might argue that the rainy day is here.
I just don't think they ever really got round to HD development, and how much longer or how many more resources it took. I mean, maybe I'm just talking shit because I don't know anything about developing games, but like, there are constantly news stories coming out about how expensive games are to make these days, and how much time it takes, and that's why you get bugs in games so much, because there's so much more testing, because they're bigger, they're more complicated. It doesn't, like, Nintendo, like, for so long they were stuck in that cycle, making like GameCube/Wii games, like, and since the Wii U's come along, like, they just haven't coped. Like, in my opinion, at least, they've not done anything to really, push that machine.
I wouldn't say they've not coped, and I wouldn't say they've not pushed the machine. I mean, if just look at the footage we had of Zelda at E3 there, I mean, when there's frame rate drops and shit, I mean, if that's not them pushing the hardware, I don't know what is. I think
that's
the
one
problem
game that's taken 5 years to develop.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, what I think the problem is that I think you are right to an extent in that they underestimated the demands of developing full HD titles. I think the problem that they've got isn't so much that they've not had enough output. I think they've had two problems. One of it is that they are, like you said, spread over 2 systems, and they've not had the third-party support on Wii U to fill the gaps that were filled in the case of the GameCube and the Wii. So they have been far more apparent and glaring that there's this big, massive space when nothing's coming out for it.
Well, the one thing, there's two things that, two things that sort of need to be mentioned. One was when you mentioned that games have a lot more bugs now. I don't actually think that's true. I think it's, from an outsider's perspective, it looks like there's more bugs now because they sit there and they do patches because they
And
can.
fair enough, Nintendo games don't.
But not only that really, it's more... when you look at speedruns on all the games are purely based on breaking the game.
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, but you also have the thing with Nintendo games of their development seems to take longer, because when you get their games, they do feel a lot more polished. But maybe that's just me.
Mm.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, there's something about a Nintendo game that just feels... You're right, it feels more polished, it feels complete. I can't remember
It's
ever...
kind of a cheap compliment, though, isn't it? I mean, it's a lot easier to polish a Splatoon than it is a Fallout 4. And I'm not a fan of Fallout, but like,
to be honest,
They're
it's
apples
no
and
different.
pears.
The thing is, Fallout 4, yes, it's a big game, but with the Fallout games that Bethesda have made, there's just been big worlds with not much in it, and they don't really try and push graphics or anything in themselves. I mean, Fallout 3, looking at it now, even looking at it back then, it never looked great, but it looks like arse, if we're being honest. I mean, it's a really good game, and I enjoyed it. I put a lot of hours into it, but the world is just quite empty. There's not as much attention to detail given to everything as, say, in Splatoon. Yeah, the scale of Splatoon is a lot smaller, but...
I don't want it to seem like I'm bashed. Splatoon, I think, is probably the most positive thing Nintendo have done in about the last 10 years.
It's the best new IP they've had in a generation or two.
And
easily.
I can't be doing with Bethesda making the same game for the last 15 years. But, yeah, I don't know.
I can see what you're saying. What I was saying is literally, I don't know, man. But listen, what I was saying is, and there's for me, and there's something special about a Nintendo game. It has a feel to it that just I don't get from other games. I know it just feels solid. It doesn't feel like it's going to break on me. It doesn't feel like I'm going to get some error message coming up or lose my save or whatever. I know it's going to be tested to within an inch of its life, that it's not going to fall over. Now, that's not to say Nintendo games don't ever have bugs. They have, of course. I mean, Skyward Sword, I believe, had quite a nasty bug that I believe rendered your game uncompletable if you did a certain thing a certain way. Which, and that was, what, 5-6 years ago? And I honestly can't think of any other bugs that I've heard of.
64. That had a major bug that... prevented, I can't remember what the problem was, it restarted your game because I had it. And so you had to send your cartridge back to Nintendo and they'd send you a new one. That's what I did a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yes,
I take your point. The camera 3-player speed bug in Mario Kart 64 as well, if I'm remembering correctly.
I guess it'd be nice for them to go back to what they were like in the GameCube days. And I'm not one of these people who loves the GameCube. I was actually pretty disappointed with the GameCube at the time. Mm. But if you look at what they and their teams did on that, you have the Donkey Kong Jungle Beat stuff, you have Mario Sunshine, you've got Zelda, these big open worlds, you've got the Metroid Prime games, stuff like Chibi Robo, all this stuff that's it seems like they're pushing it out in lots of different areas, whereas since then it's just we'll kind of do one big game. We'll kind of do like a Mario Galaxy, and then we'll do a handful of 2D platformers, and then we'll remake all the stuff that we kind of did on GameCube and the N64, the Wave Race or
I mean, they're definitely in a strange place at the moment, and it's all we can do really at this point is wait and see what they come out with. But I think we're kind of drifting away just now. We've kind of gone off with a kind of what Nintendo need to do tangent. So let's kind of move on because we do have other stuff that we want to talk about. So let's see. There's a couple other bits of news. I'm not going to go over all of it, but
are we doing a quick mid-year game of the year so far?
We can do. We can do that.
A one-worder.
Yes, we'll tell you what. We'll do that after the news, and then we'll do that. But yes, let's do that. That sounds cool. So think on that. But yeah, so other news. Obviously, Sony showed that they've got 20 million PS Plus users. That's well done, Sony.
Only 20 million.
20 million.
I'm just really sad that PS Plus seems to have jumped off a cliff in Japan. Because before you'd get like 20 titles each month, and now there's like 4 because they've taken the European and American model.
Well, yeah, it's
Well, there's nothing on PS Plus at the moment.
Basically, I can I'm happy with that. Why the hell are they getting tons and tons of games every month and we're getting 4?
Then you go into the psychology of why do you want to make it worse for Japan when everyone else should just give you more stuff? Like, it's not a race to the bottom.
No, but I can. People already whinge about PS Plus over here being crap, and then you look over to Japan and, like I said, they're getting loads of games each month. No, I can understand why they want to put things.
20 games each month, though.
Yeah.
Where do they come from?
They gave
Visual
a lot
novels.
of PS Classics. No, they didn't. It's mainly like PS Classics that give away. And then, I don't know, they just didn't seem to give them away in Europe and America for some reason.
Maybe they just ran out of PS Classics.
I don't know if they did, though.
I can't imagine it be very profitable to give away 20 games every month because obviously there's a cost involved to paying every developer or publisher for those games. So yes, it'd be good to get 20 games a month, but I definitely understand the business reasons for just giving us 4 or 6 or whatever it is a month.
I mean, yeah, I can see the kind of, I can see why people complain about PS Plus over here, where we do maybe only get 3 or 4 games a month, and they're all kind of indie games and stuff, which is fair enough. I can see, people think we're kind of spoiled back in the PS3 era when it was all, you were getting a big game every month, blah, 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 and now it's just like, now you're getting Enter the Gungeon, and it's like, great, or whatever, even though Enter the Gungeon is a damn good game. But one thing because when I was kind of looking at this briefly earlier on, I think, is it not like Japan got Evil Within last month, for example? It's like, apparently Japan got Evil Within on PS Plus, from what I read, and I'm just like, I think what we've had, one full game. What was it, Knack? Was it even Knack?
Wow, you got shortchanged.
Seems like people were always telling me I should get on PS Plus, but I can't remember ever really getting anything great from it.
Yeah, I think I missed the majority of the PS3 era, so I missed a lot of the big games that get put out on that. I think I caught the tail end of it. I got like Bioshock Infinite and a few other things, and then Uncharted 3. But yeah, I missed most of that. And then so when I got my PS4, the first thing I did the day I got it was I signed up for PS Plus to get the free games for it. Mostly because my first disc game wasn't coming until the next day in the post, so I had nothing to play on it. But it was in, what was it? It was Mercenary Kings, and that was the game of note. It was just like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, this month, even though I've not got my subscription, you've got 2 like PS3 Wizardry game item things. One of them's a demo, I think. NBA 2K16, a game called Psycho Break on PS3 and PS4.
Yeah.
King of Fighters 13. Sayonara, I can't remember it's the weird like zippy game where you like zip line around, and some indie game called Flame Over, which looks pretty fun. But
yeah,
and July is also meant to be a good month. I don't know if you've seen what the games are, but there's this game that looks quite actually interesting, Fury, and Saints Row Get Out of Hell. So
yeah, I heard that. It's the standalone expansion for Saints Row, yeah.
Yeah, so it has been definitely too many indie games. And Paragon, yeah, definitely. That's going to be something good as well. I mean, Paragon's eventually going to be free for everybody, but we're getting it as a beta. If you're our PS Plus subscriber, we'll be getting it free on.
They need to give away Infamous.
They did give away the Infamous spin-off title.
Yeah, they got that, yeah.
But
so I mean, yeah, despite my kind of moaning a minute ago, this month's lineup actually isn't that bad. There is some stuff there I'm actually interested in. To be fair, most months I'm quite happy with the lineup. But I can definitely see why some people are a bit more kind of, can we get some better games?
Does that feed into our talk about Xbox Live being free on PC? Did I see you mention that?
Yeah, kind of, yes. That segues quite nicely into that, actually.
It's a good segue.
Just quickly, because I don't think there's really much to say about it. But yeah, so Xbox Live free on PC. Will it be free on Xbox One? I don't think it will be. Simply because it's never been free on Xbox, whereas it's always been free on PC.
I don't understand what they're doing.
The reason why it's free is they try to make PC players pay for like an Xbox Live service with games for Windows Live, and that tanks so badly. Yeah. Thing is, why should you pay for online services? It makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's
We are paying for games for gold now, aren't you?
Yeah, I think they get I think they can still get games for gold, I believe. But yeah, so you trying to make PC players pay for something that they've gotten for free since the beginning of time.
Yeah, it's illogical.
Yeah, fuck off. Of course they're going to say no to that, But yeah, obviously it then creates that kind of dilemma for them. It's like, well, PC gamers are going to get all this stuff for free, but Xbox One used to have to pay for it, and obviously it pisses off Xbox One players, especially since, if you look back at the E3 conference, everything was Xbox One and Windows 10. It's
just saying though, if those Xbox players had saved their Xbox Live subscriptions for the past 2 or 3 years, they could have bought a PC by now.
A shit PC, yeah. What on earth are you talking about? It's like £30 a year, isn't it?
I thought it was more than that. I don't know why. Either way, they'd be a step closer. They could buy a graphics card.
It's like what you were saying after that.
Graphics card.
Not Microsoft. Was it Microsoft conference?
Yeah.
After some conference, when Qikz said that, everyone's just going to migrate to PC, and I mentioned, I don't think Microsoft care, but
yeah,
I don't. It seems like a weird. I mean, you're right. Like, why would anyone have an Xbox now?
Yeah,
I'm thinking at the moment, like, when I move in however many months' time, I was thinking of creating a thread on the forum and asking, a bunch of the PC guys to tell me what I needed to buy to get to enable beast mode on I want to get a fucking epic PC.
Good news, Herbie. There's already a thread for that. In the advice section in Off Topic, I think it is.
This is true, yes.
I tried following it before, though. Like, I just need someone to literally give me links to the things I need to go and buy. And then
that's what the thread's for, so it's a good place. It's helpful.
Yeah, maybe.
Someday we'll be able to help you.
How much would it cost to build a PC from scratch that, I could use like a normal... Because I'm fucking dumb, so...
Genuinely, I think you're looking about £700 to £800.
Yeah.
On like highest high settings.
Pretty much, depending on what the game is. Like,
as long as you're not wanting 4K.
No,
like,
I don't think I want 4K.
built and bought all the parts for my PC about 4 years ago. I need to upgrade now because it is starting to show its age.
Yeah, that's the other question. Like, what is the annual turnover on that, or the how much would I have to shell out every 5 years to keep it?
Well, my current machine I bought about 6 years ago, and it's still running the same CPU that I had then. I've upgraded. I'm on my third graphics card now, and it still runs just about everything I throw at it. It only really struggles with kind of big open world games, when it's got a lot to do kind of with the CPU. But the graphics card, as long as you get a decent CPU to start with, it should last you a good few years, with only needing to upgrade maybe the graphics card every three or 4 years.
Yeah,
well,
the thing is, processors, even though they're getting better every year, like a decent i5 from 4 years ago is still pretty good.
I think my Dell is i5. But obviously it's Dell, so it doesn't play any fucking games. Well, I don't know what it does. But it doesn't play games very well. I basically bought a PC a bunch of years ago to play the old SimCity, or the newest SimCity.
The one that everyone universally canned.
Yeah,
that one. I feel bad for you.
Deservedly so. Yeah, I know, it was annoying. But it's good on a PC.
So yeah, I mean, if you get that, you'll be able to enjoy Xbox Live free.
Maybe I'll have to.
So there you go.
That's the thing.
Yeah, so you'll save money on an Xbox Live subscription that you can put towards PC.
Yeah, well, I've been thinking about getting an Xbox for about the last year.
Yeah,
But
there's
the E3 conference was just
yeah.
maybe I should just get a PC or build a PC
Basically,
instead.
yeah, you're absolutely right. There's no reason to buy an Xbox now, and I think Microsoft see that. I think they've clearly shifted their focus from selling the box
Then
to
what are
selling
they
the
doing
service.
with Scorpio?
It's all the
Well,
service
yeah,
and
they
the
still
software, I
need
think.
they still need the box out there, But for them, I think they see they'll make more money if they sell from the service than they will from the hardware. The hardware's just a gateway to get you onto the service. So I mean that's why I think they're more. That's why they're happy to just say, well, you can also get it on PC.
Well, that's why it seems so weird to me, because if it would make more sense for them to me then to say, okay, the Xbox is just a machine that you can play the games on. It's literally quick and dirty. It's cheap. All right, it's not as powerful as the PS4, but you're going to be able to play the latest Halo, the latest Gears, the latest Forza, like all our big exclusives on it, and it's going to last you 5 years. All right, the games might run not beautifully, but because we've brought everything over to PC, if you want everything to look good, if you're into that, get the PC. Get something tooled up as good as you want it, and you're ready to go, and it'll smash the PS4 out the fucking park.
Either way, Microsoft win, because Windows isn't exactly the cheapest operating system. And then when you look at servers, like server licenses for Microsoft are insane. And if you want to, I don't know if they are going to have dedicated servers on their newer games, especially if they're going to come over to PC. But it's a case of, if people want to host servers, they're going to have to buy Windows Server or Microsoft Server or Windows Server 2012 or something.
Or something like that, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, you're right.
What they're bringing what they're doing with the Scorpio. At the same time, when they're bringing everything into the PC.
Honestly, I think it's going to be a thin client. I think it'll be more like a thin client PC than it will be an Xbox One, because that way, if anything, the Xbox One is pretty much a little thin client by itself anyway. It's just branded as a console, because it does everything that a thin client PC can do, and has pretty much all the media services and things PC does. It's just missing certain aspects.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Let's get on.
Sorry, I was just going to add that this whole Scorpio project and what's happening with Xbox Live is definitely a shift in what Microsoft are wanting to do. I mean, they haven't revealed exactly what they want to do but it seems that they are moving towards Xbox Live being a service. So with this Scorpio, I get the feeling it might be like a Windows version of the Steam box, and it could be just a powerful PC stroke Xbox, and maybe I am seriously beginning to wonder if it might be their last console.
It's possible.
Yeah, possible. But like I said, we're going to have to wait and see. It's like everything at the moment. Everyone's wait and see what's coming down the line. And I think that's Microsoft and Xbox especially is one of those things. But yeah, so one last little bit of news that I want to kind of talk about that I only read about today, before we move on to the kind of the stuff section of our show, is Disney have announced Wreck-It Ralph 2. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm quite happy about that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's alright. I saw the first one, it was okay. It was nice enough.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, lots of good references, lots of good wee cameos from characters. I mean, I never thought I'd see Zangief, Robotnik, and Bowser in the same room in a movie, so that's great. And I loved John C. Reilly. He thought he was really good. Obviously as Ralph, and even Sarah Silverman was good as what's her face, the wee lassie for the cart game. Thought that was good. So yeah, I think it's in 2017, 2018 that's coming. You guys looking forward to that?
Yep, sounds good.
Yes, I am, definitely. I mean, the first one was it was a good film, not one of the greats, but it was, you've got all those gaming references, and it's always nice to see something like that. I mean, I know there was a Adam Sandler film, which I think had Pac-Man in it or something.
Yeah, Pixels.
Pixels, but I never saw it myself. Did any of you guys see it?
No, it looked like utter trash.
Okay, the thing is, I saw it, I was going in expecting a really bad film, and it made me laugh a couple of times, but it was still bad. But it was one of those films that may be worth watching once, because even though it is bad, it's kind of fun in its own weird little universe way.
I will say there was one bit in the trailer that made me kind of laugh. It's like where, you know, the guy who supposedly created Pac-Man goes up to Pac-Man and it eats his arm. That was funny. But yeah, I got the feeling that was probably the funniest bit of the film.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll try and check it out if it comes on Netflix.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so one last thing before we take a wee break. It's something Kinopio proposed about 10-15 minutes ago. Midway through the year, what has been your game of the year so far? Venom.
I have been haven't had the chance to play as many games as I'd like this year. So at this moment in time, I haven't played anything exceptional this year. Sorry, I'm trying to think. Of course, Uncharted. That's the only thing that stands out. Yes, Uncharted. Absolutely. Uncharted 4. Yeah.
Kinopio, you.
Yeah, reluctantly Uncharted, I'd say.
Reluctantly Uncharted.
I think it'll. I think it'll end up being like Avatar. One of those things that I can't remember who said this, but it's remarkable for how big Avatar was at the time, how little it survived in public consciousness.
Yeah,
like nobody talks about Avatar, and it's like the highest grossing film ever.
Well, hang on. James Cameron talks about it. Is he not got another 7 of them coming or something?
Well,
ridiculous
he
like
does now, but nobody gives a shit about Avatar. You're never down the pub with friends going, "Oh, when's that new fucking Avatar film coming out?" Nobody gives a shit.
I enjoyed it as well, but yeah,
exactly. I think Uncharted will be a little bit like that come the end of the year. People will be like, "Yeah, it's good, but no, not my game of the year."
I still need to play 2. Well, I need to finish 2 and I need to play 3, so I probably won't get to it for a while. But okay, we'll see. Stated.
It's pretty obvious. Overwatch.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably going to agree with you on that. For me, it's between Overwatch and it's between The Division, and frankly, I think I've got too many problems with The Division for it to be The Division. So yeah, Overwatch probably so far has been my game of the year. Although I'm sure I've played something else this year and I can't remember what it was. Doom. Doom was really good. And Twilight Princess HD. But Overwatch. It's Overwatch for my game of the half year. Okay, so I'm just going to take a quick break and then we'll be back in just a moment. Okay, and we're back after a fun 5-minute break. Moving on to stuff, which is obviously the second section of our show. It's going to be a little bit shorter than the first section. I think we got a wee bit carried away talking about certain things there, so we're going to get through this next section. Hopefully it won't take too long. But yes, some stuff that I think we want to talk about. The first thing we're going to talk about is the kind of news of the past week or so. Now, there's only really one thing that we can talk about, and as I was saying to the guys when I was going to plan this, I don't want our first podcast to be very much about, yes, here's the political viewpoints of us, of ourselves, especially because it's such a divisive issue, but we can't not mention it. Obviously, the UK had the EU referendum, and we voted to leave the European Union. Now, personally, I voted Remain. I wanted to stay. I think it was the best plan for us. I think there's too many unknowns. I think it's very dangerous. And I think the events of the last week have just borne out just how unprepared for this the country was, especially the politicians in charge were. So yeah, I know Stay Dead especially doesn't want to talk too much about this, so Stead, we'll come to you first so you can say your piece, and then we can move on. So Stead, what do you think? Obviously, we don't want to belittle people here. People obviously vote the way they vote for their own reasons. But I mean, what's been your kind of opinion on what's happened in the past week?
Okay, I mean, I am very opinionated on this, and it's gotten to the point where I can't look at people the same way anymore, which is really sad. I don't even want to identify as English anymore, which is even worse. But my entire view on this entire thing is the Leave campaign from the very beginning was built on lies, and they weren't prepared. There was no plan for them winning. I mean, there's even a website called BrexitPlan.com, which I'll link to Devlin in a second. But basically, it's a thing that lists some of the things the Leave campaign said, and then there's a button that says click to press the plan, and then it just moves around the page when you go to it, because there was clearly no plan. I mean, Boris Johnson didn't want to win. He thought Remain was going to win like everyone else, and he thought he could use it to politically posture himself to get ahead of David Cameron in the next leadership election for the Tories. And I mean, this whole thing has been a complete farce. The referendum was called from the beginning because David Cameron wanted to win the votes back of the people who were heading towards UKIP from the far right of the Tory party. Yeah. And it worked. He called his referendum, didn't really put too much effort into the Remain campaign at all because he thought he was going to win anyway. And then you didn't really get much help from Labour either. I mean, until now, I've been a fairly big Corbyn supporter because I thought, finally, a left-wing person I can actually vote for. And I mean, that's kicked me in the balls because he basically clearly didn't want to Remain. He's voted himself supposedly to leave. I mean, there's no evidence for that. But the opposition doesn't have much chance in hell of doing anything. David Cameron stepped down, and now you have two of the biggest crazy people in politics, Michael Gove and Theresa May, who's like Thatcher but worse, trying to take control of the Tory party, and therefore the triggering of Article 50. And I'm sat here as a Remain voter feeling kind of pissed off because there's nothing I can really do.
Yeah, I think you more or less covered all the kind of main points that I would say, certainly as a Remain voter. The reasons why I feel fairly not disenfranchised, but certainly I feel a big disconnect now between myself and the remainder of the UK. Obviously, as a Scottish person myself, I have we've had the independence referendum. There's been a lot of stuff that kind of links back to that, where Scotland, especially, obviously, Scotland voted overwhelmingly to remain within the European Union. Every county, council and area in Scotland voted to remain, and we now find ourselves in the position where we are being pulled out of it against our will. And I said this in the only really in-depth post I made in the referendum thread after the result, which was basically to say that I've always seen myself as three things. I've seen myself as Scottish, British, and European in that order. Now I feel myself as Scottish, European, British. For me, there's such a disconnect between myself and the rest of the UK now that it's crazy, and I think it's going to lead to I think if they trigger Article 50, and I don't see how they can not trigger it, they have to trigger it. Otherwise,
no, they don't.
There's no way they're going to ignore a vote to say, we want it. They can't. It's political suicide for whoever doesn't trigger it.
The trouble is, right, and I know I said I wasn't going to say too much, but you've got two sides to this. So one, where you're looking at the Leave campaign now, so the people in power, they're saying they'll trigger Article 50, they'll go for, some of them are saying they'll go for an EEA deal, which means we get free trade, but with all the four freedoms that the EU was entirely based on, like freedom of movement, we'll have to accept any laws that the EU puts through without any say whatsoever. And the other one is we won't even we won't even go for that, and we'll just try and live on our own or whatever, which isn't going to work.
Yeah,
our country hasn't had to do trade deals for a very long time. We just don't have the expertise in it anymore. we've always traded through Europe. Well, not always, but for the past 30 or 40 years.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah.
The thing is, going into that situation, I mean, if we look at it in blatant terms, the people of Northern Ireland are seriously considering going to the country that they were at war at because of the IRA, because they wanted to go independent from Ireland at the time. And they would rather reunify with Ireland than stay with the UK if we leave Europe. And Scotland, there's definitely, I mean, there has to be an indie ref too, because people are saying it's undemocratic or whatever to ignore a referendum despite other countries have done it before. Just today, the courts in Austria have overturned a presidential election where someone was elected president and they realised he really can't run the country. So for the country's best interest, they've overturned it. And there was nothing legally binding about the referendum itself. The courts have said that.
But the whole point about democracy is you're not always going to get the result you want, whether it be for a political party or whatever. And so, obviously half the nation didn't get the result they wanted, but, you can't say it's invalid just because you never got the result you wanted. It has to stand. Otherwise, that means democracy, it doesn't...
Okay, I can understand that, but my main problem with the entire process is the fact the Leave campaign, everything they said is a complete lie. None of it's valid, because none of it is true. The things they promised just are not possible to achieve. 2, by triggering Article 50 and eventually leaving Europe, after 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years, we're deliberately tanking our economy because, I mean, you can see how much the pound dropped in the lead up to the referendum itself before any result was decided.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's no disputing the results of what's going to happen. That's what we're saying. It's like, yes, they can choose to ignore the result, but it's political suicide, because then all you get is all the people who voted to leave going off their nut because their vote has been ignored. That's what we're saying.
So, I mean, one thing I was trying to get to was the 4 or 5 days after the referendum vote, the news, social media, and everything was filled with people who voted for Leave either as a joke or they just didn't understand what they were voting for. And I'm not saying they're stupid, but some of them... Some people genuinely came out on the news the next day and said, I thought Remain were going to win. And the thing is, if you've got that many people regretting their vote already, is it not more democratic to do another referendum?
No, because then you get it the other way around as well. And social media and the media in general is an echo chamber. It takes a small amount and it amplifies it. And now I'm not saying there aren't a lot of people out there who feel that way. Of course there are. But if you do that, then you basically condemn democracy to repeating the same things over and over and over again. They have to go by it. Legally binding or not, there's no way that they're not going to do it. They have to do it. Anyway, Kinopio, what have you got to say, if anything?
I'll be honest, I don't really want to talk about it. I mean, I voted Remain.
No, that's fine, man. If you don't want to say anything about it, that's absolutely fine. Venom, what were you saying, man?
Sorry, I was just going to add to Qikz's point about people regretting their vote or having a different opinion. I don't know if you know Lily Allen. She performed at the concert the memorial concert for the MP who was killed, and that concert took place, I think it was the day before the vote.
Yeah.
Now, Lily Allen, she was very outspoken about how she thought everybody should remain, that it was the best decision for the country. But a couple of days after, or 3 or 4 days after the result, she herself then made some tweets that said, oh, maybe it will be a good thing for the nation. So I think what's quite interesting is that whilst many of us have opinions which we're quite sure of, there are a lot of people who aren't quite sure of their opinions, and they do change. But that doesn't, I think, represent everybody as a whole.
Yeah. And like I said, you can't go around we can't go around and invalidate every vote we have on something because some people change their mind afterwards. It's a sad fact of democracy that they make these decisions and they have to stand by it. If people don't understand the vote that they make, then that's unfortunate, but that is their responsibility to make sure they know what they're voting for. And to be fair, yes, I think one of the problems with this was that it was never clear what you were voting for. You were voting to leave the EU, but that's just, okay, we'll leave, but then what? That's the problem that there is. There was never any plan in place. There was never any way saying, right, what we'll do is we'll leave, and then we'll apply for the EEA, or we'll do this, or we'll do that. It was never spelled out, and I think that a lot of the people who voted, especially a lot of the people who kind of voted on an immigrant basis, seem to have voted on the, on the belief somehow that this meant that everybody who wasn't born in Britain was going to get deported, when that was never the case. But obviously a lot of people thought that. Yeah. But yeah, so long story short, country divided, God knows where it's going. Basically, is the long and short of it, and I don't really want to spend much longer on this because
I mean,
it's a horrible topic.
Yeah, I mean, one final point I'll make is there is 2 political suicides from both sides. The fact that David Cameron did step down has basically made the Prime Minister spot pretty much a poison chalice, because whoever takes it up has a very big decision. Do they trigger Article 50? If they do, there's a risk that they'll go down in history as making the biggest or the worst decision in the British economic history.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a possibility.
They're damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Fine, but it's all going to come down to what the next Prime Minister does. And I mean, Theresa May has already said she's delaying it till at least 2017. And sitting here, from my point of view and looking at all the evidence, I don't think anyone will ever actually trigger it. Because it just doesn't make any sense. You can say democracy, but other countries have done the exact same thing, where they've voted to do something, and then for the good of the country, the parliament said, this is what we need to do. We can't take that risk.
Well, that's it. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's early days. I think a lot of it's not been helped by all the kind of political bullshit that's been going on ever since the vote. That's not helped at all. But yeah, it's early days. We'll see where it goes, and yeah. So that's pretty much all I want to say on that. I will, bookend this by saying that the views expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of the GRcade forum, and are merely those of the people on the podcast. So yeah, and next bit of news today, again, just very, very quickly, something that I wanted to just mention. We won't go into any real detail on this, but it's the 100th anniversary of the Battle of the Somme today, so that's horrific. But, a horrible, horrible period in our history there.
Yeah, very sad, but I thought they did a very good job of honouring those that died.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff kind of in the news, stuff that was going on. There was loads of people in Glasgow today just dotted around, dressed up as, the soldiers from that period, just, groups of young men, just some of the bridges across the Clyde, there were groups in there just kind of leaning against the railings, just in, the full kind of uniform and stuff, smoking cigarettes and, just showing them as, just these boys, because that's what a lot of these guys were. They were just kids, put in this horrific situation and having to fight these horrific battles. So yeah, I mean, it's, obviously we'll always remember these guys for what they had to go through, for us and for our freedoms.
In London, they were also giving out little cards with names of soldiers on and how they died and what they did in life. Which
I heard about that.
Very sombering.
Yes, very, very sad. And it's one of those things that kind of makes me want to learn more about the First World War, because I don't really know that much about it. World War II, I've read a few books about it, and I like to think I know more than the average person. But World War One, most of my knowledge of it comes from Blackadder, and that's awesome though that show is.
Listen to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History: A Countdown to Armageddon, or Blueprint for Armageddon. It's a podcast series where he talks about World War One and goes through lots of how it started, who was involved, why certain things happened, and all that stuff. It's excellent. It's basically just a brilliant synopsis of everything. So I think it's probably about 6-7 hours in length in total. maybe a little bit
Sounds
longer,
good.
but it's
Sounds-
definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I think I'll check that out. So so that's happening today as well. So that's not good, but it's good that it's still remembered all this time on. Now, obviously, we've talked about that. We talked about Brexit, which is a term I hate, and obviously all the political shenanigans and this backstabbing that's going on, which brings us neatly to our next section, where I think we're going to talk about Game of Thrones. Before we get started, has everybody here seen the finale of this season of Game of Thrones?
I have no interest.
I have.
So.
Okay, so right, we all have stayed in, couldn't care less. Okay, so I will also preface this section with spoilers. If you have not seen the finale of Game of Thrones, go away, basically, because this is going to be the last thing that we talk about. Thanks for listening. Join us next time. For the rest of us, fucking hell, that was some finale. That was, and the episode before it as well. That's probably the best 2 episodes I think they've done. Absolutely loved it.
Definitely. I mean, personally, I think this series has been a bit slow to get going, and it hasn't been as consistent as some of the other series.
Mm-hmm.
But the penultimate episode, the Battle of the Bastards, it was fantastic myself. I just thought there was an amazing fight scene, amazing battle, and then you finally got to see whether one of the big antagonists was going to be dealt with or not. So it was class. It was really good in that.
Yeah, I mean that episode, I think you could see where the budget for this series had went. And in that episode, it was it was so well done. It's that's probably the best battle scene I've ever seen in a TV show by far.
Yeah, I was actually surprised because I was looking out to see if there was noticeable CGI or graphical effects, because the crowd looked like it was a massive army.
Yeah.
And it all looked very genuine and very big and real to me. So for a TV episode, yes, it's a big budget. It looked great.
It didn't look like a massive army. I think that's what was so interesting about it, is that they only had like small or relatively small groups of people. I can't remember what the numbers involved are, but it's less than 10,000. Whereas in Lord of the Rings, in those battle sequences in those films, they're talking about like numbers,
hundreds of thousands.
Well, that's what you'd think based on the size of those battles, but it's only I still think it's only tens of thousands.
Mm-hmm.
But that Battle of Pelennor Fields and other stuff, there's clearly like several million people involved in that. It just doesn't equate at all. So I thought it was quite good how in this they the Jon Snow's fighting force was essentially, it was only like 6,000 people or something, and you look at it and you're like, yeah, that looks like about 6,000 people. Because if you looked at 6,000 people in a field or in like a battle scenario, it wouldn't look like that many.
I think they definitely did a good job of showing like how small his force was in comparison to Ramsay's. I think Ramsay's obviously had a bit more kind of effects in it to make that look bigger, but even then, it didn't look ridiculously huge. It was like, okay, fair enough. These are all the guys he's got, and then okay, well, here's Jon's kind of army, which is big-ish, but it's still noticeably smaller. But it was just so many good moments in it, like when he charges the oncoming horses, and he has that long shot where it just follows him through all the horses, and he's just hacking down these guys that are coming for him, and he has all these near misses, and then obviously they all get herded into that big circle, and there's the big crush. It was so well done.
Yeah, that crush thing was really well done.
So good.
Pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
I felt sorry for the giant. I can't remember his name, but
Yum
he did
Yum?
a sterling.
Something like that.
Yum.
Yun Yun?
Wan.
1-1.
1-1. Yeah.
1-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it was Yum Yum or 1-1, he did a good job, and it was sad to see. Well, I don't want to spoil things too much, but yeah, he did.
Yeah, no, it was genuinely kind of, when he died, it was like, oh man, he was so cool. Because you hadn't really seen him do too much up there. You'd seen him hit a few guys, in the kind of smaller fights, but that was the first time you'd kind of seen him really like kind of let go.
He could have done more when they were all penned in by the.
Yeah, that would have been
Pikeman.
The pikeman. Yeah, that was about my only kind of thing where I was kind of like, he's massive. Could he not just be smashing through them? Yeah,
it looked like.
But it was so well done, and then obviously John beating Ramsey to almost to death.
Oh, yeah, that was cool. I didn't like
so
the way the kid was let go, and that what's the kid?
Rickon.
Yeah, it just seemed a bit stupid. Like,
yeah,
okay,
you could see what he was doing.
What you miss?
Yeah, I think they'd always kind of I think they'd always, because they'd shown it in previous, like a couple of seasons ago, I think, when he would hunt people. He would let people go, and then he would go and he would hunt them with his bow. So I think they do kind of have precedent for that. So he's a good archer. So he was obviously clearly missing him. But yeah, it was kind of, you're looking at Rickon and you're going zigzag a bit. It's like, make it hard for him at least. But I loved that entire episode. Everything about it was fucking brilliant. Just right from the start, especially with the stuff with Daenerys as well, because usually her bits are a wee bit kind of, what's she doing this week? Right, okay. Whereas this time it was like, fuck, you've got all the boats at your ship. Well, I'll get the dragons on them. And so it was kind of cool to see something actually happen with her.
That dragon CGI was top notch.
Yeah, I think they've finally gotten the dragons to a point where, because don't get me wrong, they looked good before, but I think they were always just on the borderline where they were not quite good enough.
It's when she's riding them, it looks like she's sitting on a box and they've CGI'd a dragon around her.
Which is pretty much what they will have done. But
But these last two episodes, they really nailed it.
And obviously the final episode was a bumper episode. I think it was like an hour and 9 minutes instead of the usual 50 minutes.
So what was, like, I don't really give a shit about Game of Thrones, so I can't remember any of the names and who's supposed to be the best swordsman and who's the mad bastard or whatever the fuck's going on. But that last bit where fucking Bran the Boring is Bran is doing some warg shit, and he sees Ned go into the tower.
Yes.
So, and that's Ned's sister.
That was Ned's sister in the bed. Yes,
that's right.
So what happened there?
The story behind that is that basically, I think.
Wait, the story from the book, or
see? Well, that's where I've read the books, so I've got that as well. But I'm trying to kind of keep it to what was in the show, and I think that they have done a good enough job, kind of getting the story across. What was in the show, from what I remember, because it's kind of built up over a few years, is that you had the tower, and the whole idea was that Ned was rescuing his sister from Rhaegar Targaryen, who had kidnapped her, which is why, and she was engaged to Robert Baratheon, who was the king from the first season, and she gets kidnapped by Rhaegar Targaryen. So Robert starts the war basically to get her back. So that's the war where he ends up becoming king. He starts to get her back. So this is like the war's been won. Ned goes to get his sister and find that she's in this tower, defended by 2 Targaryen Kingsguard. That's why at first he's kind of like, where were you? Why weren't you at the fight with defending your prince? And they're like, obviously he wanted them to protect the tower, and obviously he goes in there, and she's giving birth. Basically she had an affair with Rhaegar Targaryen and
Who's
had
Rhaegar
his baby.
Targaryen?
Daenerys, so Dany's older brother,
the
who
guy
died.
That was in the first series.
No, that was Viserys. That was her older brother, but Rhaegar's younger brother. You never see Rhaegar in the series. He dies long before the series starts. So that's basically So basically, then at the end, it kind of reveals that the baby is Jon. So Jon's mother is Ned's sister, who had an affair with Rhaegar Targaryen, which basically means that Jon is a Targaryen and technically is heir to the Iron Throne.
Okay. Yeah.
But it hasn't been revealed yet in the series.
Yes, it has.
What not about the Daenerys brother.
Yes, it is.
I didn't pick up any of that in the episode.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, it didn't reveal who Jon Snow's father was in the episode, did it?
Pretty sure it did, because she
says
says to Ned, protect him because Robert will kill him. And the only reason Robert would kill him is because he's a Targaryen child. And is an heir to the throne. And the fact that obviously, she was meant to be his wife.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. But I didn't get that it was meaning that he's a Targaryen child. It was just protecting that Robert would kill him. Do you know what I mean? Because I haven't read the books myself, I just watched the TV episodes. So, I wasn't clear on that. And there was also an article that was going around the internet yesterday revealing who Jon Snow's real father was. And so I don't think it's that clear in the episode. Maybe it's a bit clearer if you follow it, if you follow the book.
See, I know that because they've been talking about it in the thread as well, and the folk in the thread were kind of, again, there were some people who were like, they weren't sure, but there were others who were like, no, I get it as well. And it wasn't just book readers, so, obviously, if I've spoiled that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, but it was my understanding that it has been set up in the show.
The thread and everything.
Yeah.
I knew I know what the insinuation is now, but I think the only reason I didn't get it from the TV show I suppose the clues are there, because I didn't hear him say don't kill or don't tell Robert.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, I think the audio in that section isn't very loud. She is kind of almost whispering it, but you can hear her say it. So yeah.
And I hadn't picked up on the stuff from the previous episodes that they are Rhaegar's soldiers. I didn't realise.
Yeah, I think it's the first kind of flashback that they do with Bran, where he sees his father as a young man.
That was like 5 episodes ago.
Yeah, I think it was like 5 or 6 episodes ago. And he's talking to them, obviously they're Targaryen men. He's like, he asks him, why weren't you with your prince? But yeah, so I thought that was like a fantastic ending to the series. Not just for that, and to be fair, I like that they didn't even end on that. That wasn't the big kind of ending for the show, which it absolutely could have been. But that episode was full of like really good moments. For other characters as well. I mean, I loved, obviously Arya, turning up kind of out of the blue. I wasn't expecting to see her at all.
That was kind of funny.
So
I wish
that
Jamie
was
had done that though.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting him to do something, but obviously I think he was kind of, because obviously he was kind of getting up in his face a wee bit. But yeah, so it was good to kind of see Arya come back, especially because her story's obviously been kind of a bit wishy-washy, kind of not really doing very much. So it's good to kind of see her back and actually doing something. What about you, Venom? What was like your favourite part of it? What kind of stood out for you? Venom.
Hello. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, so no, it's fine.
Yes, the beginning of the episode with the whole of the preparations against the sparrows, and that was very exciting. But it was the resolution of a whole load of storylines actually in the episode, and they were all great. The only one that I would have liked to have seen more of was what you mentioned was the Arya one, and because of if you remember the episode of the wedding, I was so surprised by that, and I found it so gruesome and so awful, and so I would have wanted the revenge a bit more. I would have liked to indulge in the revenge a bit more than what we saw, but yeah.
To be fair,
it was fantastic.
To be fair, she feeds the guy his sons and then cuts his throat.
No, that's true. But, I would have liked to have seen her kill the sons. So that would
cooking
have been
with Arya Stark.
Exactly. But yeah, no, it was good. What was the last scene? Now I'm trying to remember what the last scene in the actual episode was.
It was Daenerys and the boats going over the narrow sea.
That's right. Yes. Okay.
She's on her way finally.
Yes. So no, it's all coming to a head, and I'm hearing that it's even the next series is going to be the last one, or maybe an 8th series, and that's going to be it. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think there are 2 more series to come. So, but I think they're going to be slightly shorter. I think they're saying there's going to be another 13, 14 hours, which is going to probably translate to maybe 6 or 7 episode seasons, which is kind of shit. But yeah, definitely kind of getting to the point where things are building to a head. I think all the pieces are kind of on the board now, so to speak, and it's kind of moving towards its resolution. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that going forward. Okay, so just one last thing before we finish up, which will just going to be very, very quickly. Just want a quick look at some stuff that's going on in the forum at the moment. Now, I was going to do something with this anyway, but Jawa kind of started his own thread, so I'm going to shamelessly steal a couple of things from that. And it's his own fault, basically, because he calls me Cheekly in it, so fuck him. No, look, I love you, Jawa. So yeah, 2 things from that I'm just going to pick out. One, obviously, I don't know if you've seen, but there's a thread set up by Starquake, who's doing a Kickstarter for his game Hyper Sentinel, which is, I believe, a follow-up to an old game published by an old developer. I think it was Hughes and Associates. So excited to see what they come up with there. Have you guys had a look at this?
It looks ace. I watched the trailer. It looks so much fun.
Yeah. Want to go, Venom?
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, this Houston fellow, he originally created a game which I think was called Eureka back in the whole computer age. And yeah, I watched the trailer for this, and it looks really good. I haven't seen. The last time I looked, I didn't realise there was a Kickstarter for it. I mean, what's he planning on releasing it?
From what I can tell, I think they're going for all the kind of main platforms. When I last checked the thread, I think Gecko was actually trying to secure us some early copies so we can do some Twitch stuff with it. And he was saying that the versions they've got up and running at the moment is an iOS and an Apple TV version. So I think he's obviously looking at those platforms as well, but I think the usual PC, PS4 as well, I think they're going for. I'd need to double check that though. But yeah, I mean, obviously, Houston, I think they set up, I think it was they became 21st Century Entertainment or something they became later on, and they actually found, or they helped DICE, become a bigger developer. They created obviously the Pinball Dreams and Pinball Fantasies games on Amiga and PC back in the day, so that was kind of cool as well.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely check out the Kickstarter because it's very retro, but it seems like a lot of fun. There's a lot of retro games that just seem retro for not knowing the reason why they're retro. But it seems to capture the essence of this. What was the Commodore 64 game?
Yeah,
so I'll check.
Yeah, so there's definitely that. So check that out. That's in the games forum. Over on grcade.co.uk. And just finally, one bit of shameless self-promotion here. Season 2 of Arcade Attacks is finished. All the episodes for that are also in the Arcade Attacks thread on grcade.co.uk. Oh, thank you. So that's up just now. The most recent episode is about the arcade and Dreamcast shooter Gunspike, also known as Cannon Spike. So check that out. It's a bit mental. And that will be back for a third run in about 2 or 3 weeks. So look forward to that. But yeah, I think that's going to round us up there. We've went a wee bit longer than I planned to, but
good luck editing this.
Yeah, we'll maybe edit some of this down a wee bit and see what we can do. But yeah, so join us again in 2 weeks when I will be joined by some other guests. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank Captain Kinopio, Qikz and Venom for joining me this evening. It's been a pleasure having them. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been fun. Thank you.
Yes, no, and I'm sure you'll be you'll all be back at some point as well.
Wales won, by the way.
Yes, they did.
They've
Fucking
achieved
brilliant.
in one tournament what England have not been able to in nearly 30 years. So,
I'm very, very
excellent
happy
stuff
for them.
Wales.
I can't gloat too much though, because we haven't been in a tournament in almost 20 years. But yeah, so thanks for joining us. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a whole new episode. In the meantime, come visit us at grcade.co.uk. Join in the thread, let us know what you thought, what worked, what didn't. And we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of Arcade Attacks. Remember to like and subscribe to see more of our videos, and to come and visit us at grcade.co.uk.